mobile engineer. I work for Shortlast Mobility. I build mobile app with Flutter, Kotlin, Swift, as long as it's mobile development, but not React Native, please. I don't do React Native. This talk is meant to be some form of workshop on navigation 1.0. Yeah, supercharging navigation 1.0 in your mobile application. So Flutter, there is Flutter, and we've been navigating with navigation 1.0, the popular navigator.push and navigator.pop. You push routes, you pop routes, everybody's happy, you are good to go. And then most recently, we have a new navigation system, right, which we call navigation 2.0. And they're like, hey, you don't need to just push and pop routes. You could insert, you could do whatever you want to do with it. I know initially when it was released, the Flutter community was like, this guy is very complex. Why do I need the route parser, the route delegates, and here and there? I just want to push and pop routes, please. And then, of course, the community came out with different packages, right? Things like Go Router, Auto Route, Route Master. What else? Like there are lots of packages there that does navigation with 2.0, right? But the question is, do you exactly need navigation 2.0, or you don't need it? If you are going to use 2.0, why should you use it? Why should you pick 2.0 over 1.0? So my talk tends to, address these small things. I just have a thing or two to say about navigation in general, but yeah. Okay, some background. On the base level, when we talk about navigation, right, we are talking about routing between screen and pages, right? I want to move from screen A to screen B. I have a screen that is displaying a list of items, right? And then I want to get the detail of each of these items. So I'm going to click on the item and do the detail, right? So I've moved from the item listing screen to the item details screen, right? So that's like navigation. I want to go from one screen to the other, all right? So I said on a base level, we talk about navigation when we refer to moving between screens and pages. In Flutter, we call them routes. Screens and pages are called routes. So navigation and routing goes hand in hand, right? In Android, we say a route is basically like an activity. That's the equivalent. But on iOS, it's a view controller. The point is that your routes are widgets. Your routes, your screen, your page, they are widgets. In fact, everything in Flutter is a widget. Just sit that way. Even your navigator itself, under the hood, it's just one widget controlling the whole navigation page, right? Navigation 1.0 itself, there are a lot of things navigation 1.0 does. A lot of sugars that it brings for us. People tend to say by default navigation 1.0 is fine without 2.0. Is that true? I don't know. If that's false, I don't know. But let's dive deep. So one, we said navigation 1.0 uses the navigator to navigate to a new route. Basically, your navigator, it's just one widget, right? That is managing a stack of routes or screen or pages, right? So because it's a stack, the basic operations you can make to a stack, like the stack data structure itself, you can push, you can pop, right? So your navigation, data is just one stack of the routes. You push a route, you can pop a route, right? So that's what navigation 1.0 tells you can do. You push this route, you pop that route. The problem is when you pop the routes, the root route of the application, and then your screen goes black. And you're like, so you have to be careful not to pop the root route of the application, right? Yeah. Of course, by default, the root route is defined with backslash, right? That's like your initial route. If you are not defining the home page, maybe you have some name routes, you have to use that backslash, right? Else, if by default user decides to come back to the very first route of the app, you get some route not found, some kind of exception because it was not found. Okay, navigation 1.0 offers APIs to push and pop routes. Since the navigator manages a stack operations like push and pop are available to it. Okay, one could also use the pages API to manage the navigator. Before 2.0, or even currently, because the two can work together, inside your material app, you could define routes. It's basically a map of items, right? I think map of objects. string dynamic. Yeah, that way. Yeah, string dynamic. So you could define different routes and pages. They're like URL formats, maybe /A/B/C, a kind of format. You could have a map of these routes, or there's another parameter that comes with it. I think we call it the on generate routes, right? So that's some kind of when you want to do certain logic to your routing, right? You could just map it to your on generate routes. So under the hood, the whole manipulation is being done before you render a particular view, right? Navigation 2.1.0 comes out of the box with that. Yeah, name navigation routes. By convention, route name uses path-like structure. So /x/y/z, like that's route. By default, the home route is defined by /. Deep linking on navigation 1.0, is that possible? Yeah, it's possible. You could actually do that alongside name routes. I mean, before navigation 2.0, people were doing deep linking, right? So if it's not possible on 1.0, then how are they doing it? Question. So item 4, we said routes can return a value. When you check your navigator of push, right? It's like some feature that you can await. So you can decide to await a screen, right? And get the value when the user passes back. But I think that basically is type safe. So when you are doing navigator of maybe material page routes or Cupertino page routes, instead of void, you have to like specify the type you're expecting, right? And when you are popping the route, you have to like pop the results. So you get now. So when you await where you are pushing to, and then you pop from where you have pushed to, right? You get the results there. But you have to be careful with the types, right? So you don't run into type issues. It's that, not, I don't know. Okay, yeah. We also have pop-up routes in navigation 1.0. Things like show dialog, show menu, show modal button, sheets. And the point of these are basically routes like like normal pages. Like we said earlier, screens, routes, all of them they're all widgets, right? So your modal sheets, your dialogues, your bottom sheets, your menus, and your likes, all of them are basically routes. But this time they don't cover the whole screen. They don't obscure the screen. They just like overlay, and they prevent you from interacting with what is the widget behind them. Like that's what happens there. Like I said, they block the inputs to the widgets below them. Yeah, below them. And then you are allowed to do use nested navigators, right? Things like you want to create an independent journey. Say you have a user registration flow of 5 screens, right? And you want to be able to like pop that journey out once. You could like wrap it its own navigator, right? And then you push for the screens that wrap with that navigator, right? You could do your push replacements and the likes. Then you could also pop that navigator out. Once you pop it out, it returns you back to the root navigator. We use nested navigator when you want to do things like nested navigation also, yeah, in 1.0, right? Say you have a tab bar, you want to like maintain the tab, or a bottom navigation bar, right? And you want to like maintain the bottom navigation bar while you route inside those pages. You could like wrap each of these views for the bottom navigation with its own navigator, right? So the navigator has its own routes that is going to route to for each of those views in the bottom navigation bar, right? So you still maintain the bottom navigation bar while you are routing inside that view. However, you could also decide to use the root navigator to push and pop. That's after you've exit you're out of the main navigator. One has to be careful, especially in the case of named routes. Cases where your routes are defined under a sub navigator and not the main navigator, right? It means if you decide to use the root navigator to push a route that is defined in the sub navigator, you get issues because the main navigator itself is not maintaining the history of whatever pages, right? That page has been assigned to the sub navigator. So you have to be careful with that. So it said nested navigators, they can be used to create independent journeys that represent a subsection of your whole application. Popular example is tab navigation. If you want to capture a certain flow as one, you could just give such journey its own navigator. You could also pop that navigator once the journey is completed. And then we have custom routes. Like everything in Flutter is a widget, right? By default, when you want to do a navigation 1.0 push, you either do the material page route, right, or the Cupertino page route. You could also decide to implement yours, the page route builder, right? Define your own kind of transition. You could do that for pages and also for dialogues, pop-ups, and the likes. Define their own transition, their delay time, and everything. Like it gives you that kind of power and flexibility. But then the Flutter team says, yeah, you know what, guys? Let's try navigation 2.0. And 2.0, why 2.0? I mean, 1.0 was doing our job well, right? I mean, I could push and pop. Now, Flutter, the plan was multi-platform, right? Apart from Android, iOS, cross-platform mobile app, they wanted to exit to the web and wherever it is. Now, routing on mobile and the web are two different things, right? You could have a route that has path parameters on web, right? You could have a route like /a, question mark, whatever, and whatever the case may be, right? On web, but on mobile, you don't exactly have that, except you want to explicitly pass down path parameters, right? So the other thing was like, okay, you know what? We'll give you a new method of routing that works with your existing method, right? So navigation 2.0, like the other thing would say, came from the need of we have gone multi-platform. We need to use to support the different navigation types for the different platforms. Okay, and then the very first time it was released, I know I tried this then. This new guy, let's see how it looks like. And then I was seeing route information passer, route delegates. What's going on here? I just want to push and pop. Like, let's just push and get out. I was like, I should be able to just do navigator of push and let's. This is not pushing. What's going on? So then you have to sit down and start reading. That old moment. And you're like, okay. And then, of course, the community is always there. They came and like, okay, take this package, use this one. And when you look at the packages, right, they try to stay kind of close to navigation 1.0, what you're familiar with, right? Why bringing the new guy? It's why certain packages can do context.push, context.go. They know that you are used to navigation of push, right? Or navigator of push named and then the named route itself. So they are trying to like stick as much as possible to that. But the question is, would you always need navigation 2.0? That's the question. Like, would you always need it? Like, before 2.0, the Flutter team has always, in the documentation, they've always recommended named routes, right? And ungenerated routes. Personally, I feel like people used to abuse on generate routes itself. I mean, I have just one screen that, say for example, a success screen. I don't need, you just push success, push me this screen and get out. So why do I have to like define a route for that screen? It's not like, it's like some utility. I can just push to that view and get out, do what I'm doing and get out. Like there's no stress. So I feel like people used to, overflog the use for generate routes. Generate route was there for you to be able to perform certain logic before you route, right? You could do whatever checks you want to check before you go to the view. If a check fails, you could return a particular view. If it passes, return a particular view. Whatever kind of manipulations you want to do, that's what they gave it to you. So if I'm going to just like push one view I mean, why should I stress myself, right? So the question is, 2.0, right? Is it sufficient? Do you need 2.0 exactly? It's not black and white. It's not black and white. It's more like gray. And that way it's gray because it's not a yes and no answer. The very first thing is you have to like consider the platform you are building for, right? I've seen projects, right, where they support mobile and web, and then they try to manipulate the navigation so that on the web they're already doing 2.0 navigation, right, and on mobile it's 1.0. It gets messy. It gets messy, and I understand, right? The whole team is used to 1.0, or they have a mobile app that works with 1.0, and you are trying to support the web, right? And the 1.0 navigation exactly might not be perfect for the web. So hence, they install a new package for 2.0 navigation, and then they're doing platform checks so they can, it gets messy. But the very first thing is always to understand the platform you are building for. The question is, are you building for Android? Are you building for iOS? Are you building for the web? Will there be a web support coming up in the future? You don't want to use navigation 1.0 for a project that's going to support the web. It's along the line, it might get kind of difficult for you, right? However, a project that's only mobile, just Android and iOS, 1.0 is more than enough for the whole thing, right? You might not need the whole 2.0. Let me call it gymnastics now, because you have to install some package, right? So you might not need the whole 2.0 gymnastics, right? I mean, I just want to push my routes and pop it, and it's mobile. It's a mobile app. I can't. It's not unlike the web that you can just edit the address bar and put some new address and jump there. This is mobile app. You have to open it and press and move places, right? So you can't just be jumping anyhow, right? But of course, 2.0 says you can insert pages, you can insert routes even at runtime, right? And that's how the web works, basically. You can jump to any page, any route, right? You can edit the address bar, put any address there, and you want to view that particular view. So the very first thing is always to consider the platform you're bidding for. Or is that like the most important thing? What platform are you bidding for? Are you bidding mobile only, or are you going to support the web? Are you supporting the web currently, or you plan to support the web in the future? If you are going out of mobile, it's advisable to go 2.0 route, right? If you're going to stick with mobile only, and you are sure you stick with mobile only, 1.0 does the work perfectly. Other cases, what other navigation are you supporting? Nested navigation? Question mark. Are you going to support nested navigation? Right. Are you going to support tabbed navigation? Are you going to support deep linking? Right. Deep linking out of the box in 2.0 is straightforward. I mean, it's like more like path parameters. I could strip the paths and the whole thing. But it also works in 1.0. I mean, you have the ungenerate routes. You could also strip the whole path and everything. And then when you get the whole data you need, pass it down as screen arguments or whatever it may be, right? So you have to also consider those things. But over time, while I'm a fan of the big work they've done in 2.0, I build mainly for mobile. Of course, I've done some web support projects, but I'm a big fan of 1.0. And I won't say my team and I now, because I mean, I don't have a team. It's just me and my guys. Okay, yeah. So we've come up with different approaches, right, to navigation, right? Ways by which you can push a module, right? When I mean a module, I mean also a feature module. You have a feature module that has different views under it, right? Say I have maybe, let's call it something like a checkout module, and my checkout module has 5 views or 5 screens. So you get now. I want to be able to push this module and pull up the module, right? Of course. Things like I have nested navigation. Things like I want to be able to have its own kind of routing. Each module should have their own kind of routing. Like this module, this is how it routes. That module, that is how it routes. Do I have to start declaring navigators for each of this module? That's the question. So that's those kind of questions, like brought up a kind of approach. I used to call this a supercharged navigator, because it's basically just one navigator that has the ability to be able to push and pop modules. A module is basically like one folder that has different views under it, right? Exactly. So we create some kind of navigation that allows you to be able to, push the full module itself and pop the full module. I can be in a module and navigate between pages inside that module and jump to another module without breaking the navigator itself, right? So this talk was meant to be a 2-man talk with I and Emmanuel. So I think Emmanuel will continue from here.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Emmanuel Aliu, mobile engineer, part of Master Sam's guys. Yeah. So what are the kind of things that you would want to achieve with Navigator 1.0 that might seem a little shady and might make you want to consider 2.0? So that's one of the reasons why we need to supercharge 1.0. So the first thing, I'll open this navigator folder and show you this supercharged navigator, right? So it's basically a class that has a global key that you can use to always access your navigator. Then it has the current context. So as you're building your apps, sometimes you want to perform actions like opening a modal bottom sheet or something, and you need your context in your view model, and you don't want to always be passing that context from your view into that method. Yeah. So you have this current context available to you everywhere. So you have your normal, all the methods that you normally use, your push named, push replacement, push name replacement, push and clear, push named and clear. You have your pop, your maybe pop. We know what maybe pop is. That's to check instead of just popping the screen without any checks, it will actually check if you have a will pop scope or any conditions, whether it should pop or not. Can pop, which is very useful if you have like a custom app bar that you are using a custom app bar to decide whether you should put a back button or not. Then pop onto root. So this is one of the so before I talk about pop onto root, let me quickly just talk about the push named replacement. So if you see inside push named replacements, you see we take the root, then we also have something that we call a sub router, right? So he has already explained what we call modular navigation. So you want maybe authentication feature to have its own navigator. You want your different features to have their own routers, right? So like the Flutter team encourages that we use named routes. So if you have like a very big app and you start to define all your named routes in your ungenerated route, you find out that very soon that one file begins to run into hundreds of lines. Yeah, so you want to and then if you come back, maybe you worked on authentication 2 months ago, and then you come back, you made a little change. Most of the time, we don't have that patience to go and look for, okay, what part of this file is our authentication route defined in for me to put authentication in there. So that's one of the things that the sub router now helps you do. So let me open so the sub router is a very simple abstract class that has a module name and a router method. So the router method returns a widget taking in route settings, and you can always go to the repo and see how this is used. We have an example here inside views. You see we have module A and module B. So this is like a simple demo to explain this concept. So inside module A, you see the routes are defined. These are the named routes, and then you have the router. So the router implements the sub router, has the name, and then has this router that says, okay, for this particular module, if you get this name, these are the routes that are supposed to come out for it. And all these things are used, these things are accounted for inside the supercharged navigator. So yeah, another advantage that the supercharged navigator helps you do is that if you use your normal navigator.of context, right, and you push in an unnamed route, you just push a widget, that route is not going to have a name, right? You would need to intentionally specify arguments, your settings, and put a name there. So you see that here, when you are pushing, you push your normal, you have an optional parameter to add a route name, right? But it does not just stop there. It also extends to the fact that even if you don't specify a route name, and your route name is null, we use the runtime type of that widget that you have pushed to generate a name. So when you use the supercharged navigator, all your routes have names, right? All your routes have names, and that's what makes it very, very great to now use this method, the pop onto route. So you can be in any part of your application, right, and be able to return to another part of your application using the pop onto route, as long as you know the route, if either you specify the route name or you use the runtime time type to string. So I'll demonstrate those very quickly. I just want to walk through all the code, and then we'll come to the app. Yeah. So that's basically it for modular navigator. Then Okay, I've showed you the supercharged navigator. So there's like an app navigator. This is now the general one. This is the one that now houses this is the one that now is it uses the supercharged navigator under the hood and then connects its own key to your main app. So inside your main app, it connects its key to your main app. So you can anywhere in your app, you can do app navigator dot and access those methods, right, to do your navigation. So instead of writing navigator dot of context or looking for the context anywhere, or writing this key dot current states dot and looking for that navigator, you can write app navigator and you have static methods that you can use to do your navigation. Nice stuff. So the second part I want to quickly demonstrate, I want to quickly walk through is the feature wrapper that he also talked about here. So this allows you to like wrap a certain feature inside its own navigator. So the other one gives you a sub-router, right? So that you can separate your route files as you want. But this one wraps that feature inside its own navigator so that whenever you pop the main navigator, that whole feature leaves the route history. So you have the start, and this is also demonstrated. So let's just go through to jump to the demo. Yeah, the repo is available so that you can always walk through this. And like he said, we love criticism. All right, so I have, if you can see the app I have on the screen, you see I have push module A, push module B, push normal A, normal B, normal C, then wrapped module starts, then info. So push module A, what push module A basically does, view module A. So from the main, from this page right now, push module A, we're just going to access this navigator that we talked about. This the one that is plugged into the main navigator for our app, and push named, and push this route. And then we're going to specify the sub router that we want to get this route from our module A router. And so when we push module A, we get our view A1 that is coming from the from that sub router. Same thing when we do view A2. So if I go to A1, you see this is how we push the A2 with the arguments, everything. Then pop totally, so it pops. You can also go back normally. So same thing for module B. You see I can do view to view 3. So now, because I have, if I open the page for view module B, for the third page in B, you see that I can pop until, so I can, from anywhere in my app, I can go back. So here I'm like trying to go back to page 1 of module B, right? Because all my routes now are named, whether I push them with push named or not. So if I click this button, it takes me back to view the page 1 for module B. Normal A, normal C, normal B are like our normal push pop. You just want to push the route, so you just call your app navigator dot push. You just send it straight to the main navigator. Your normal B, your normal C. So normal C has an argument. You pass an argument. So you would see there's a difference in the navigator, in the router here. So if you want to, instead of overflogging your on-generate route, because this function here, you would agree with me, it looks like your normal on-generate route, right? Yeah, I'm trying to like just speed through this. So instead of overflogging this, we can always use this routes map that Samuel talked about. That's a map of string to widget builder, and you can define like your routes that don't need any extra manipulation, right? So, and this is available. You can plug this into your main function. It's available here. Routes. You can see it here. So you can plug this into your main function. So, but if a particular view needs extra manipulation for you to get it done, you can do that in your main router. That's why we have this specified here, settings for arguments. So these are just like basic examples. So last thing I'll talk about is the wrapped module. So This one is a module that has its own navigation. So when you open it, it like has its own navigator, right? And then inside it, you can navigate inside it, start and pop it. Yeah. So now I'm just going to do internal module pop, and to pop like that whole module out of the screen. So basically that's like the whole demo for a supercharged navigator. I hope you enjoyed it, and that we'll be seeing you in the repo.
Yes, I mean, yeah, I said everything. Yeah, I showed you all the code, right? I mean, it does not like story. I like ranting, but it does not like ranting. Okay, yes. I don't know if there are any questions. I think Emmanuel showed us, right, different kind of routing, like how to navigate, push a full module, right? How to pop a module, how to push a feature, jump from one feature to another feature, how to pop the feature, right? One thing he failed to show you was the navigation history, right? We plug in the navigation observer if you check the code, that like monitors the navigation to be sure, right, that all settings arguments are maintained, right, and that we don't break the navigation, so you can basically like see the route history. Oh, we've pushed all these routes, we've pushed all other routes, right? To be sure that we've not pushed a route we are not meant to push, and it remains somewhere in the history. The whole point of the Super Navigator, I think the Super Navigator started when I think we were building something, and then our router file was, I mean, it looked messy, and we're looking for how to like break it into sub modules and sub routers. And then I think I started borrowing the idea from how Angular does navigation. If you look at what Angular does, they try to like do feature-based navigation. You write a feature or a module, you have its own navigation that is local to it, right? Which is also plugged in the global navigation. Like that's what we've done here. We have like a router, and then we have sub router that are plugged inside the main router, right? Yes. In summary, now this talk is not to agenda that navigation 2.0 is bad. Like I said, whatever it is you use, the goal is to ensure that you navigate properly. The point is you should always consider the platform. But since it's Flutter we are using, the platforms that you are building for. That is the most important thing. Consider the platforms that you are building for before you make your choice of navigation. So yeah, thank you.